Hello, welcome everyone. So this is our fourth installment in our Beyond the Takeoff, and today we're going to focus on how one of our Stack customers is using the estimate tool today. So I appreciate you all coming, and before we get started here, just a couple quick logistical items. My name is Dave Wagner, so I'm the VP of Product Marketing here at Stack. And I will be working with Peter Hockey, who we'll talk to here in just a second, as one of our existing customers using the estimating and proposal capabilities. But to let you know, this is being recorded. We will do everything in our power to send out an email within the next 24 hours with a link to the recording. Also, everyone except Peter and myself is muted. However, if you have any questions, there's a question dialog box within the GoToWebinar screen, and feel free to put your questions into the dialog. And then what I'll do is go through those questions at the end of the session as we go through this. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started? And first, Peter, welcome to the webinar. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the firm that you work for?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, like Dave said, my name is Peter Hockey. I've been a construction estimator for 15 or 16 years now. Was hired out of college as a drywall estimator, and I now work for an exterior cladding contractor. So we do very, very high-end architectural facades, a lot of what you would see on universities and hospitals, car dealerships, banks, various image programs, all very, very expensive materials, copper and zinc and metals and different products. So naturally, because we deal with very expensive products, the estimating component and the pricing component is very, very important to us as a subcontractor. So
great. So obviously you're using Stack today, but tell us a little bit about the tools that you guys use for Takeoff and estimating prior to bringing Stack in, Pete.
Yeah, so as a drywall, so first off, we kind of started as a drywall company. And with the drywall company, we really jumped into on-screen Takeoff and QuickBid as our launching platform. And we've been using that for 14 years, basically until now. And that was really driven by a drywall contractor. So that software was made for them. And it was a good software for a while, but it became pretty clear after 5 years that product wasn't really going to evolve with the times. It was a great software for us for a long time, but the challenges with using that software is the more users you add, the more complex the system gets, really the harder it is to use. So we made the jump to Stack, or are in the process of really transitioning all of our companies to Stack just over the last 6 or 7 months here. So yeah, and for us, in terms of sales, we're quoting about $5 million worth of work a week. So with 7 estimators that I'm working with directly. So we need a platform that is really easy to get in and out of, and really review as well, to be able to review each other's work and to jump from one project into the next. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing.
Well, that sounds great. So let's sort of get to the heart then of the webinar. Tell us in your own words, how you're leveraging the items and the assemblies, the estimating worksheets and things of that nature as part of your typical workflow within your organization.
Yeah, so I guess to speak to that, it might be better to kind of show you. We can show you some assemblies and some items here. For the most part, I know a lot of companies and estimators are kind of still stuck in that Excel format. Let me just pick my screen here. You might have to help me here.
Let's see. So we are seeing a Word document right now.
Yeah, I don't want to look at that. Are you seeing a big screen here? It says Bridging North America?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump into this. All right. So I think the thing I really liked jumping into Stack with not understanding what Stack was or what it could offer was the fact that there were all these built-in Stack items for us to kind of go and look at and see what other trades are doing. I know for me, as a cladding contractor, I really was digging through Division 7 to see, okay, how are roofers using the software? How are even EFIS applicators, not something we do anymore, but I can kind of see what assemblies and items are in here. And from all the information I've gathered here, we've tried to create our own components and items and assemblies. So, you know, if we dig through here to keep it simple, because everybody knows what the stud and sheathing is, we'll look at some of those assemblies. So we can see we have some structural steel stud here, some different thicknesses of track, some different thicknesses or slotted track. Obviously, there could be deflection track. We could have different types of sheathing. And I love the ability that we can, you know, obviously associate a cost code with that, so we can track the cost, we can track the estimate for each of those items, so we can know how many sheets of plywood we need, and also track that as a separate cost item. So from building all these items, being able to move those into assemblies was crucial, because again, with 7 estimators, we have varying degrees of expertise. So we have estimators that have been here a year, we have estimators that have been here 10 years, and they don't know how to build assemblies. They don't know that they need a certain number of fasteners per linear footage of structural stud. They don't know what kind of primer they need to use with an air barrier. So being able to kind of build that stuff for them was great. So I'm going to show you, this is our main assembly that we're going to be using for almost all of our conditions. So we have some required components up here, and we have some productivities that are tied to those components. So I know for this product, I'm going to need 1 hour for every 27 square feet, and obviously we can adjust that. We have different insulation fasteners in here. We have different insulation types in here. We have, we're going to scroll through these quick. We have some framing, some thermal clips to attach our framing. We have some vapor barriers to obviously stop water and moisture from getting into the building. And we can see we have different calculations with each of these. So some of my vapor barriers can get different coverages. I've got a little waste factor here on the end here. We can see I'm adding 15%, but we might have different waste factors on different assemblies. So I love that I can customize right out of the gate exactly what is what. One of the drawbacks I'd say to some of the software we used before is you set a waste factor, it applies to every item. It's not, we can't customize it per item. So I love that functionality. And then obviously we have a few other categories here. So when I get into preparing an estimate, we're going to look at this Audi dealership. I've got a bunch of conditions here, and everybody knows how to create these conditions in Stack. I don't think there's any surprise there, but we can actually look at the assembly and really drill into what's going on here. So in this instance, I have a bunch of user-defined variables. So I have subframing that I need to install over these walls here. And just to give you an idea, this is what the Audi dealership looks like on Google Earth. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago, just to give you some perspective here. So I've got some aluminum composite panels here. You see them as usually silver boxes on buildings. And we have all these assemblies on the left-hand side here. So we can choose, I love the ability to choose the primer. For example, for me to create these assemblies on our old platform, we'd have to have an endless number of assemblies, whereas here it's a simple change. I can change the vapor barrier very quickly. I can add different types of clips. So I love that. And it also kind of prompts, you know, our junior staff that, again, they haven't been doing this very long. They don't know that they should be looking to find this out. It prompts them to kind of go look for that as well. So the estimating platform itself is phenomenal that way. Obviously, you know, you have to build the assemblies and you have to think about how the calculations are being done. But once it's set up, it really is super intuitive to use. And the onboarding to bring on the junior staff is just, it's going to be so much easier. So I think, let me just move this down here. So yeah, I guess the only other thing we could add to this, so this is a pretty straightforward project or job. And we can go look at our cost type reports here with our assembly breakdowns. And I've got a stack demo one here. So, you know, being able to sort and group by conditions or by page, like buy anything is phenomenal. It's very easy to go check and see if anything was missed or anything's wrong. So yeah, the report functionality combined with the assembly and the items, it's just something I've never seen before. So if you want to take it back here, Dave.
Well, we'll leave the screen showing for now, but I am curious. We had talked a little bit earlier, and you talked about the need to be able to create conditional statements in your formulas. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, let me pull up. I want to pull up an example here. So this is like, again, I stumbled upon this because I don't think this is one of the better known features of some of how the formulas work in Stack. So here I've got an example. We've got a flashing that's just going to sit on top of that window, and that flashing is there just to drain water away from the building. And I've got a couple different flashings here. We're going to go back here. Let's just turn some of these off. Okay, so we have a bunch of different flashings here. We'll zoom in so everybody can see what we're looking at. So we might have a head flashing, we'll have a jam flashing, and maybe a drip flashing at the base of the wall. So I've got a couple different conditions here. And I've stretched these to be approximately the same linear meter, or obviously most people on the call are probably working in square meters. So we're going to go look at what that assembly looks like. So here's a flashing linear footage. We're just going to pop into that assembly here. Go take a look at that assembly. So here we've got, I've got a conditional formula. So I have an if statement within my formula. And this is like, again, this is so advanced. I couldn't believe that we could do this. So my conditional formula here, it basically states that if my measured linear length is less than 10 feet, I want to basically round that up to one piece. And if it's not less than 10 feet, then I want to divide the overall length by 10 to figure out how many pieces I have. So the idea here is, let's say we have a 6-foot window head. Well, I'm going to use one piece to cover that window head. If I have 20 window heads, it's not really 20 times 6 feet. It's really 20 times 10 feet. So the fact that we can do this, if this, then that equation here is just phenomenal. And I've really been exploring how to use these conditional formulas throughout. So another great example would be, hey, if the quantity is over a certain amount, we want to run a different productivity. Or let's say the height is over a certain amount. With our drywall company, we know that there's a labor rate to go to 10 feet, and then there's a labor rate above 10 feet. Because above that 10 feet, they're going to need different access equipment. There's going to be more up and down. You might have 2 guys handling the board. So we can take those measurements into consideration. We could say, if the height is more than 10 feet, then carry this productivity rate, but if it's under 10 feet, then carry this one. So the conditional formulas are just, it's such a cool tool. And it's something I hope that we'll get a little bit more visibility on Stack, because I had some help with another Dave at Stack to kind of create these. But I think it is one of those hidden gem secrets that Stack does have right now.
That's very cool, Peter. So obviously that's a great sort of tip and trick that many people may not know about. Any others that you'd like to sort of share with the group here?
Yeah, I think my favorite, we're going to go look at, we'll look at Gordie House. So this is the first project we really tested Stack with. So this is a 1,000 page set drawing. So it's very, very big. I think there's 5 or 6 different building sets here, so we can see at the top, building A through L. And this is going to be the international bridge that goes between Detroit and Windsor in Ontario here. So the contract, I don't know, I think it was $300 or $400 million, this whole thing. Obviously, our scope is much smaller, but being able to group, let me just go into the Takeoff here. So being able to group like this thing here, up here on the left-hand side, you can see we can group by division, by building. This was one of the features, I think it was rolled out a few months ago. Being able to see this kind of visibility, I love the ability to turn on and turn off conditions, because some of the conditions, for me specifically, panel counts, I don't want to forward that to my customer. They don't need to see that information. I'm almost overwhelming them with information, but I do want to share some information. So I love the grouping. I love just the navigation to flip back and forth between everything. But yeah, I would say this is my favorite, and obviously the library, being able to simplify. Okay, I'm bringing in this condition, and it's there, it's ready to go. So I love those two things.
Wonderful. So now that you've been using Stack for a little while, have you guys have any metrics or quantifiable way that you found that Stack has improved your overall performance compared to your old method of doing things?
Yeah, I have an example I want to show you. So this is QuickBid, and this is a great tool to show you what we struggle with. So we're going to type Gordy in here, and we're going to wait and wait and wait. You know, it might take another hour for this to load in. It's still loading. Right now we're seeing about a 30% time saving. So obviously, the larger the job gets, the more time we were finding we're spending setting up that project in the old software. So some jobs, yeah, you might set it up in 5 minutes, but some jobs would take half a day. If you're dealing with a 1,000-page set of drawings to actually get it in and ready to use, it would take a full day to get that going. So right now, in terms of metrics, we're seeing about 30% time savings, and that either means, you know, having one less estimator or bidding 30% more work. And really, that's what I see with Stack, is being able to bid 30% more. The other thing I would say is the onboarding. We go through, not that there's a high turnaround, but we have an office with 50 people in it. Typically, when we hire a junior estimator, we want them to do quantities and learn our business and learn about the products, but then we want them to become project managers, and we want them to become project coordinators. So onboarding a new employee and getting them into the software, and then having them move throughout the company is really important to us. And onboarding our old software, it would take 6 months minimum to get them to a point where they were confident with both programs. Whereas we're already seeing, we show Stack to a new employee within 2 weeks, they're asking questions, but being able to hit this little, send a message, you're lost, or going to the help thing up top here to search for something, it's so easy. So the onboarding, again, we're seeing probably about a month. We're going to save a month per employee in terms of onboarding. And then I guess the last comment I would make is I'm projecting we're probably going to save about 0.5% a year just in missed scope. So I'll give you an example. So we have here, let's say we have, let's search the drawings for something. The OCR functionality in Stack, I think everybody kind of knows that, right? So we had a mistake that we found last week with a customer where we missed a small scope of work and the drawings weren't detailed very well. But if I had Stack's OCR functionality, there's no way that would have been missed. We could have searched the keyword, we would have seen it on the detail. Even though the architect didn't draw it very well, we would have noticed it. It was a $20,000 miss. So I don't know what, I'm not sure what everybody else's subscription costs are, but per user, like that would pay itself back immediately, if not for the year. So to me, it's really important to not miss work. And again, we're quoting probably about 20 projects a week. I'm reviewing, 2 or 3 projects a day. I don't have the time to go through, a 100-page set of drawings to make sure my junior staff didn't miss a detail. And Stack's going to give us that confidence that, hey, we can do a quick check through their scope and make sure that they've got everything, and to decrease our risk and exposure. And obviously, these small losses, in this case, a $20,000 loss. So. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I very much appreciate you sharing those statistics with us, Peter. That's great. So, Peter, I actually want to introduce, we have a special guest that has joined us. So Justin Ogilvie, he is Stack's Chief Product Officer, also essentially the father of this product, has joined us. So Justin, welcome. So I thought we'd do a couple things. First, Justin, if you just want to sort of react to how you've seen Peter use the product and some of the things you've seen here. And then what we'll do is give Peter an opportunity to tell Justin what he'd like to see added to the product as we move forward here. And then we'll open it up to questions from the rest of the audience. So Justin,
Awesome.
welcome.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I apologize, my webcam's broken, otherwise you guys could see me, but sorry about that. So thanks, Peter. Thanks a ton for sharing with us. That was awesome. It was awesome to hear how we've impacted your business, and I appreciate you showing us a little bit of. I think that was QuickBid there. Is that what we were looking at? Is that your opening?
Oh yeah. It might be loaded by now. Oh yeah, we're in. Let's see. I've selected the project. I'm still trying to go into it. It's like yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So we're trying to push forward. We know there's a lot of tools out there, and we're trying to make an impact in a lot of different ways on your business. So it's cool to see that we're succeeding sometimes. I know for you, Peter, I know I kind of can predict what you're going to say when Dave asks you what you want to see, and that really is a good lead into what we're actually working on, which is Stack introduced estimating. It's our estimating. For those of you that don't know, we started as a takeoff tool. So our estimating components are really new and are still maturing. And that is what we're focused on right now, and is just really advancing our estimating so that you can use it on larger, more complex jobs. And that for us, that means two things. It means really getting you the data within the estimating tool in a format that you want to see. So some aggregations that we don't have, some key metrics that you should be able to your estimating tool should just be able to spit out that are just more difficult to do now with this sort of simple tool we have. So we're focused right now on just giving you estimate data in a way that helps you make decisions and understand the scope of a project quickly, like a nice dashboard summary type view of your estimate. And then also about getting the data out. So we kind of realize that even the best estimating tools aren't going to do everything that everyone needs. So really getting you your estimate data out so that you can use it in other tools and other systems. And that's a key effort for us here this year.
Wonderful, Justin. So Peter, anything else other than what Justin just mentioned that you would offer up as some advice on where to take the product, specifically with respect to the items, assemblies, estimates?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I figured I'd highlight. I wasn't actually going to bring that up, Justin, because you do have it on the roadmap. And to be honest too, to circle back to my experience with Stack, I first looked at this software, I think it was July 2019, and we had a hard pause on it. We looked at it with one of the sales reps, Joe. He was great, but the estimate platform just wasn't there yet. And lo and behold, 9 months later, the estimate came out. Even the recent updates of being able to break out label groups is phenomenal. Like being able to do that. Here, the estimate, this estimate I'm working in, again, it's a 1,000-page document. It's probably testing the limits of the platform, but being able to slice and dice it is critical. I think for me, the biggest things I would like to see is the history on the costing would be great. One of my only kind of complaints with the software right now is if I change a cost, let's say I was to change a junior designer rate here from 2209 to 2309, it's a new year, we gave them a 2% raise for the year. It's going to impact every single bid unless for some reason I change the price in that bid. So I'd love to see the costing fixed to each estimate. And I know that's probably a big ask, but that would be a great option. I think having a column here to see, hey, when was that item last updated would be good as well. I know for me, in our old system, a lot of times, twice a year I go through the list and we take a look and say, okay, have we got a recent update price on this? Especially right now, I think everybody's feeling the crazy price swings we're seeing right now with COVID and delivery delays from our suppliers. We're seeing prices swing all over the map. So having those two functionalities would be great. I'd also love to see slightly, a little bit better search functionality and some improvement here. I know For me, if we search junior designer, that's great. If I click on something, sometimes I find this navigation is imperfect, but not to take away from the software. If I go and look at the updates here, and one of the reasons we really invested in Stack is the updates. Since I bought the software or bought into the software, we've seen 29 updates, and a lot of the things we've seen, it's like, reassigning Takeoff. Like when that update came out, I was like, I sent that around the office. Being able to do that in Stack was critical, and that's not something we had to ask for. It was like, oh yeah, they just added that. That's great. So we were getting really excited about it. So yeah, there's things I know we're going to see improve, but for the most part, what you guys are doing now is just great. Like being able to see, monthly, hey, there's a new feature. There's a new feature. So it's good to see, our annual subscriptions going to actually improving the software. And I think that's, I'm a little bitter with our old software because we weren't seeing that. So I think the last thing I wanted to say, Justin, not to dump on you, and this might be your 1 or 2 year plan, so I don't want to dump on you. But I love the reports here, and I'd love the option if we could kind of create our own views or reports, or with calculated columns. And I see a potential there that I think that's a lot further down your roadmap, but having that functionality would be awesome too. So.
Well, I love all these suggestions, and I tell you what, it's something we're thinking a lot about right now. Is just getting the estimate data in here. So you'll be able to load up your reports with see not only takeoff quantities, but also estimated quantities, waste, all the data fields you're putting in on the estimate worksheet are going to be able to come out on those reports, and you will be able to save views of the reports, not only in a snapshot format, but save the actual report configuration, column structure.
Yeah, see, that'd be awesome. Yeah, and I think the thing that gets me excited too is like whenever I sign into Stack, I'm looking at the roadmap and I'm checking for an update. So nobody looks at this screen, the roadmap, more than me. Like I'm always, okay, like, what are they working on next? Because at the end of the day, everything you guys do in theory makes my job easier, right? So if I'm managing 7 other estimators and trying to get them to buy into a platform, when you guys make it easier for them, you make it easier for me. So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Peter.
That's fantastic. Any other questions now from the audience? If you've got anything, just type it into the questions dialog box that's part of GoToWebinar, and we'll take a look. In the meantime, as we're giving people that chance, Justin, anything else you want to share about things that people can expect to see in the coming months?
Let's see. We've got everything in this business. Maybe like construction, everything takes longer than you think it should. But yeah. We're working hard on the estimate data, getting the data out in reports. We're exploring QuickBooks integration to send takeoff and estimate data over into QuickBooks quantities and prices. Those are kind of our 2 big things. We're in the planning phases on and really the design phases on how can Stack impact your ability to operate in the field? So we're just thinking about what data from Stack should go out into the field that you might want to reference, what data from the field that you're potentially collecting out there, productivity rates or actuals, should come back into Stack to improve your estimates. So there's nothing short-term there that we're going to do, but it's just
that's awesome. Yeah, I know we were really looking forward to when we saw that. I think that was on the roadmap where it was % complete. Being able to give my site superintendent Stack to take on his iPad to site, and if he could change % completes when he's there's no taking photos and going back to the office, and oh yeah, like we're very pumped by that.
We'll get there.
So Justin, I'm really glad you mentioned QuickBooks. So I have a request for everyone on the phone. If you are a QuickBooks user and we would love to talk with you. So Justin and I have been spending some time really trying to understand what is the best way to integrate Stack with QuickBooks, and we'd love to hear your opinion on some of these things. So if you're willing to give us 30 minutes of your time and have that conversation, send me an email, dwagner@stackct.com, and we'll set up a Zoom meeting and have that conversation. So we do have a questions rolled in. So are there any plans for adding assemblies for landscape takeoffs?
Great question, Daniel. Great question. So we have actually just, we've got catalogs that ship out of the box with Stack, and we have just recently, as in the past couple of months, added a catalog engineer whose sole responsibility is improving those catalogs. So Daniel, I'd actually love to connect you with our catalog engineer because we're considering doing a landscaping catalog. It's not set in stone yet, but I'd love you, and his name is also, by the way, Dave. His name's Dave. So I'd love to connect you guys if you're open to it, and just to sort of talk about what your need is there.
Great. Another question from Scott. Is there any online articles for how to set up the if statements?
Oh, geez. I wish there was. That is another catalog engineer responsibility that we're going to get. There will be, but there are not. So, but I can tell you that generally right now, the formulas that are available to you are a subset of the formulas available in Excel. So it's a little bit of you can start with what can Excel do, the basic stuff as far as if, round, and you can sort of usually the parameters and things are the same. So
if I could, I know I'm just a user here, but I would actually answer that as well. I was dealing with, I think it was Dave or Noel, and I asked them that 23 weeks ago, and they were actually able to send me the list of variables that you could use. The one thing, using divide function instead of the actual divide symbol. The one thing I would comment is if you're using if statements at all, you can't straight up use symbols. A lot of times you'll have to use the formal language with the if statement. So divide, bracket, one component, comma, the other component. So yeah, I know I was able to get a lot of that information from, I think it was either Dave or Noel. So you should be able to send that question in, and they have it somewhere in a Word file.
Or just talk to Peter. We'll publish all his contact info after this webinar.
Yeah.
You can just shoot him
Send me a message.
text him anytime, day or night.
Yeah, I can get it for you. I'm sure I have it here stored somewhere.
Well, Peter, Justin, we very much thank you for your participation on the call, and for everyone else that's listened in. For those of you that came to all 4 of our estimating sessions, we thank you very, very much. We hope you learned something new. And keep an eye out for additional webinars from Stack around various subjects and thought leadership, and getting a chance to hear from people like Peter directly how they're using the product. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
Oh, hold on, wait. One last question came in. We'll finish with this. Is the accounting software integration going to be limited to only QuickBooks, or are you planning to include other programs as well? I can answer that one. So we are starting with QuickBooks, and it will be sort of the foundation that we use, and then we will look at adding additional accounting systems as sort of that as a bit of a model as we move forward in time. So great question, Blake. Thanks for that. Okay, thank you, everyone.